Drone attack in Moscow. Several buildings were destroyed. Welcome to the channel. Today in the program, as always, we continue to bring you the latest official news from Ukraine in the last 24 hours. In today's program, Russia issues arrest warrants for senior Ukrainian commanders after drone attacks. Putin, Ukraine chose path of intimidation with drone attacks. We are 10 years behind Ukraine in terms of military potential. The head of Wagner criticized the Ministry of Defense after the drone attacks on Moscow. There will be a terrible counterattack due to the Ukraine's drone attacks on Moscow, Putin. Ukrainian official denies Kiev's involvement in Moscow drone attack. Now let's go into more detail. Russia issues arrest warrants for senior Ukrainian commanders after drone attacks. The Russian Interior Ministry has placed 2 senior Ukrainian figures on its wanted list, hours after a series of drone attacks in the Moscow region. Valery Zaluzhny, the commander-in-chief of Ukraine's armed forces. Alexander Syrsky, the commander of Ukrainian ground forces. The investigative committee of Russia is also investigating Syrsky and Zaluzhny for the shelling of civilians and civilian facilities in Donbass. Putin, Ukraine chose path of intimidation with drone attacks. Russian President Vladimir Putin blamed Ukraine for the drone attack in the Moscow region, calling it a clear sign of terrorist activity. Kiev chose the path of intimidation of Russian citizens and attacks on residential buildings, he said, adding, "We are concerned about attempts to evoke a response from Russia. It seems that is what they want. Kiev provokes us to mirror actions. We will see what to do about this." The Russian president added the city's air defenses worked normally. The Moscow air defense system worked satisfactorily. However, there is still work to be done to make it better, Putin said in brief remarks carried by Russian state media TASS. Putin suggested that the drone attacks had been in response to recent Russian strikes against Ukrainian infrastructure. The Russian armed forces strike exclusively with long-range, high-precision weapons and only at military infrastructure facilities. Of course, some portions of these strikes is aimed at the military headquarters as well as headquarters of the Ukrainian military intelligence, which was hit 2 or 3 days ago, he continued. In just the past few days, Russia has hit a medical facility in Dnipro and launched more than 50 drones at Kiev.
Твари вонючие! Вы что творите?
Wagner chief criticizes Russian Ministry of Defense over alleged Moscow drone attacks. Yevgeny Prigozhin, the head of the Russian private military company Wagner, has launched an expletive-laden tirade at the Russian Ministry of Defense following an alleged drone attack on Moscow on Tuesday. Prigozhin said in an audio recording on his Telegram channel that he was aware of and concerned about the drone attack. As a person who understands this somewhat, I can tell you that many years ago it was necessary to deal with these drone programs, that we are now years behind our opponents. Years, maybe decades, he stated in response to a question from a journalist. The mercenary boss, who has been engaged in a bitter public feud with Russia's military leadership, said the Russian Ministry of Defense is doing absolutely nothing at all to catch up with developments in drone technology. Regarding the drones that fly over Moscow and in Moscow, you stinking animals, what are you doing? You are swine. Get up off your asses from the offices you've been put in to defend this country, he said. You are the Ministry of Defense. You didn't do a damn thing to stamp this out, he continued, claiming he had warned about the threat many times but that officials did nothing to prevent it. Russia threatens most severe measures following drone attacks. Russia's foreign ministry announced on Tuesday that it can implement the most severe measures after drone attacks on Moscow. Russia reserves the right to take the most severe measures in response to the terrorist attacks of the Kiev regime, the ministry said in a statement. Assurances from NATO officials that the Kiev regime will not strike deep into Russian territory turn out to be completely hypocritical, the foreign ministry added. Ukraine has denied direct involvement with the attack on the Russian capital. Russian authorities say 8 drones were intercepted in the Moscow region. The investigative committee of Russia has opened a criminal case on the matter. The information in today's video consisted of these. If you want to support our work, like the video and subscribe to our channel. See you in the next videos. Bye.